that little barbell with the 10-pound plates on both sides. And that was my goal. And what I discovered very quickly is that, and it's still the thing, Brandon, that holds me to this: progressive. I've always loved the fact that if you put your time and energy into weightlifting, you improve. Now, you get to points where you can't improve anymore. Like, the peak of my career, somebody says, well, you ever do those numbers again? I'd be like, no. Come on. I would struggle to do half some of those numbers, So no, you hit a wall. You just physically hit a wall. But I love the fact it was progressive, and it was interesting. I bought on eBay the actual booklet that I had as a kid. Another one, and it cost it cost $37 to get that original booklet that came with the weightlifting set. And in it, the guy who wrote it, called Ted Williams, he recommends basically picking weights up off the ground and putting them overhead for 2 sets of 5. Well, what's weird is that what I learned in 1965 is still absolutely true in 2020. Pick them up off the floor, put them overhead. 2 sets of 5. And it's like, I have a whole book called Easy Strength based on that high level thought that I knew the very first time I touched weights. There's a thing, people say this a lot, that the very first time you're introduced to something, you learn everything you need to know. But your job is to abandon all that, go in the wilderness by yourself, screw up everything, and then come back to 2 sets of 5 of picking stuff up off the floor and putting it overhead. So there you go. There's your moral of the story. When I started getting ready for American football, when I was going to go into the high school, into our high schools here in the States, I started taking weightlifting a little more seriously, and I read a book, and one of the guys in the book threw the discus. And so I followed what he said. And so in the spring, I did the hurdles, through the shot put, ran the 800 through the discus. But what I loved about the discus, it was just like weightlifting. The more I put into it, the better I got. And I think that's going to be the theme you're going to just keep seeing the whole time. I like things that if you apply your energy to, you get better at. I would say writing is the same one too. And I would say relationships can be that way too. Can be. I mean, there's other things in relationships. But through my high school career, I played American football, I wrestled, I played soccer, football in the summer, and basketball. And in the spring, I did the hurdles and threw the discus. And pretty soon it became apparent that I was a much better discus thrower than I was anything else, even though I certainly could have played at the next level in American football. I mean, I certainly had the skills. And then from there, the discus paid for all my education. I went to Utah State University. I was their MVP and all the other stuff that goes along with that. And in my senior year, Coach Mon, great man, took me aside and he said, would you mind coming back in the fall and helping my athletes in the weight room? Because what had happened in my 4 years of college, Arnold, the Educational Bodybuilder, came out, and Pumping Iron had come out, and Rocky had come out. Now, you just have to understand, and of course the Jane Fonda tapes were coming out. That combination of things made weightlifting from picking weights up off the ground and putting them over the head to a thing we now call bodybuilding. And there's nothing wrong with bodybuilding, but it's a crappy way to train for track and field, football, soccer, basketball, swimming, bike riding, Highland game. It's great for bodybuilding, but it's no way to train an athlete. So in the fall of 1979, I might have been the first actual track and field strength coach in the United States. I might have been. I mean, other people say, oh, I was doing that before, but but I was being paid to be a strength coach, and I helped with throwers. And I continued my career. I officially retired from the discus in 2010, July 24th, 2010. I continued to do Highland games. A year ago this month, I had a great Highland games. Speaking of one
what do the Highlands games consist of, Dan?
Sure, but I want to make a point to it. Just so it's the big rock, which is the Braemar stone, which is usually about sneaking up about 30 pounds. Okay, and there's called the open stone, which is just like the shot put. It's a stone that weighs 16, 17 pounds. The lightweight for distance, which is the 28-pound weight throw, the heavyweight for distance, which is the 56-pound weight throw, the light hammer, which is a stick with a lead on the end, which is 16 pounds, the heavy hammer, which is a stick with the weight on the end, that's 22 pounds, and of course the big one, which is the caber toss, and that's the big log we flip over. Okay. Yeah, so that was nice. Yeah, well, just one quick thing as we talk. Today's the 1-year anniversary of my brother Phil's death, and he died. Something happened when he was doing a fundraiser on a bicycle, that is one of the things. My family, we die young, and so that's one of the things that'll come up. You might miss it in our talk, Brandon, but I am pretty sure I know of my mortality. It's my family, we die young. My mom died. In fact, it'll be her 40th anniversary of her death, and not very long from now. So one of the things that in my part of my career now, I still love progressive, but I also still think a lot about longevity because I do want to dance at my grandchildren's weddings. And I want to, so longevity is a big thing. One of the things, if you read my work, there's basically 4 words you have to remember. Health, which is the optimum, interplay of your organs. And you only find out your health by seeing a dentist, a doctor, an eye doctor. Fitness, which is the ability to do a task. And the problem with our industry is people just focus on tasks. There's longevity, which is quality and quantity. The quantity of my life might not be as long as others, but I tell you one thing, the quality is good. And then the 4th one is what I specialize in, something called performance. When someone says your name and you step up either onto the platform, the ring, the stage, how do you do? And that to me, so I'm always drifting those 4 concepts into my head at once. I don't think it's a good idea to focus just on tasks. And I got nothing against the Moab 240, but that's a fitness task. If that fitness task somehow gets you hurt badly, that's going to impact your performance and your longevity and maybe your health. So I always like to see those 4 things. And if you're not a performer, don't train like a performer. Like peaking. There's no need for most people to peak unless there's a wedding or something like that. And I get it. You want to look good for the picture. So basically, I started strength coaching in '79. I did it as a volunteer for a long time. I always tell people if the fast track to riches is not being a strength coach. And then about 2003, 2002 or so, I started doing workshops. I did one, and Testosterone Nation reviewed it so well that I was the keynote 8 weeks later at another place. So I went from an audience of 20 people to an audience of 2,000 in about 2 months. And it's funny because your fellow Canadian, John Berardi, often makes fun of my route to fame. But one of the things I also have to remind people, really hard to. I've been writing since the '70s on weightlifting.
So you guys just waiting on the little tech difficulties here in the Zoom that happens.
Not as published as I'd hoped. I stand here in 2020. I'm very updated. Yeah. Yeah. Are we okay?
Yeah, I think we're good. We've had a little in and out with the Zoom here, but your video's a little frozen for me right now. But go ahead, Dan. Go ahead.
Can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you now.
Well, let's just go. Okay. Did I finish my brilliant point? Yes.
I think we cut you off at the beginning of the brilliant point and at the end of it.
Well, perfect. We can fill in later. Okay. Well, let's continue.
Yeah. Yeah, so again, I'm a big advocate of what you say in terms of strength training, because it's funny because I wrestled in university and I played football in university myself, and I've never been into bodybuilding, but you naturally build your body up through strength training, through weightlifting and lifting heavier weights. And it's ironic really, because I tend to have a bigger chest and a much stronger chest, and I was like I was 170 pound safety in university, and I had the strongest 10 for pound bench press on the entire team. And a lot of that was due, and I had a big chest, but it was due through heavy lifting. And then you get the idea, which I want you to dive into, is that so many people are trying to, go into that, muscle hypertrophy, like to lift those, 8 to, 15 rep range. But I'm also advocating a lot that athletes and those trying to build muscle need to lift heavy. Like, you are a very basic guy in terms of take something off the ground to lift it over your head. So where does the line kind of get drawn in, lifting heavy and incorporating that into a muscle building program?
Well, we've, in my world, we've always said, well, if you want big arms, deadlift over 600, clean over 400. You're going to have big pipes. You don't have to worry about it. But now, having said that, if it's all about your look, and I'm fine with that, I have no issues with that. There's no judgment-free zone right here, okay? Guys like Rusty Moore, your fellow Canadian Greg O'Gallagher, I like what they talk about. I like that they're absolutely crystal clear. Intermittent fasting, basically, long walks after you train, don't work your lower body basically at all. Focus on the incline bench, focus on the weighted chin up, and that's how you'll look good at the beach. I got no issues with that. But if at the beach someone pulls out a caber or a discus, I like my chances of winning because I train for performance. But you have to understand that if you want to look good at the beach, here's what you need to do. Those things. But if you want to perform, you've got to do different things. For example, in the weight room, if you read my book Easy Strength, or you follow my work on heavy loads, I got that rule of 10. I mean, if you want to get strong fast, 5 days a week, do 3 sets of 3 in the overhead press, 3 sets of 3 in the deadlift, 3 sets of 3 in the weighted pull-up, pick up some weights and go for a farmer walk. And when you get back, do 1 set of 10 in the ab wheel. If you do that, and you can certainly mix up the 3 sets of 3 to 5 sets of 2 or 2 sets of 5, it doesn't matter. But if you do that for about 40 days, about 2 months, you're going to notice this freakish thing is that you're a lot stronger. Not just a little stronger, but a lot stronger. Because basically, strength training comes in 2 steps. Neurological adaptations. The nervous system figures out what you want to do. And then number 2 is what Rob Wolf calls that hormonal cascade, where the body says, I don't know what's going on, but if we're going to be picking up 400 pounds 5 days a week, we're going to have to do something to, strengthen everything. And to me, I just focus on those 2 steps, the neurological adaptation, learning to get stronger. If you don't mind, Brandon, I always explain it as when you learned how to type, if I was standing next to you and started saying faster, faster, or did force reps with your fingers, made your finger, pushed your finger down on the A. Every time you went to an A, I made you would not be a good typist. You would actually probably be terrible. So, but if we just let you type day in, day out, 10 years later, you become a very fast typist. And I see the weight room at the first stage just like that. My job is to teach your body what we're trying to get done here. And it's almost miraculous. The hormonal cascade is a miracle. When it happened to me, it's funny you said you weighed 170. When I graduated from high school, I weighed 162, and I threw the discus 170, which is really far. And then I met Dick Notmeyer, and he started me on the Olympic lifts. And in 4 months, I went from 162 to 202. 4 months, 10 pounds a month, 2.5 pounds a week. Well, there's no way I could have consumed enough calories to have done it. Now, it's true, I was hungry all the time, but that is what the hormonal cascade will do to you. I mean, if you finally get it right, you're going to have this surge of hypertrophy and, well, I mean, I can't think of a better way to say it than hormonal cascade. But if you do it right, this kind of, and I hate to call it a miracle because it's not, but it is stunning to be in the middle of that. When I went to a party and one of my elementary school friends, Rita Harrington, was there, and she could not stop staring at my traps because it was just, what are those things, you know? That's how we get stronger, and that's. Now, the interesting thing is, and I would say this to my hypertrophy, the guys that want to look at the beach stuff, is that, you know, I'm almost 63 here. Here's my pythons for you.
Looking big.
I'm still carrying, you know, huge armacondas. You know, I've got, and people say, "What do you do for your arms?" I said, "I don't do anything." But when you lift heavy, the effects stay a long time. Brandon, how old are you right now?
Just turned 30 a few months back.
Okay, so you're going to have at least 5, maybe 10, perhaps if you're lucky, 15 more years of strength improvements. But the nice thing is if you're very strong at 40 years old, you will, we'll just say you're a typical person, 35 to 40, okay? Mm-hmm. Whatever level you are at 35 to 40 is going to stay with you for a while and slowly taper down. If you're only half as strong, that strength level will stay and slowly taper down. But here I am in my early 60s, and I'm still the guy you ask to move the refrigerator or couch, because even though I'm not as strong as I was at 35, 40, 45, that massive gap I had, that, you know, that over, and I hate to call them normal people. I'm sorry, folks, you normal people, all you normal people. I'm still freakishly strong because even though I am weakening as I age, I still have a much larger kind of gap. I have a bigger band than someone who never trained. So that's one of the great gifts of strength training and fitness, is that, well, you know, and one more thing, if you don't mind, just kind of one last thing. You know, Art Devaney was asked a question one time. The woman asked in a workshop, "What do you do how do you get rid of fat?" And Art answered, "Don't get fat in the first place." And she got really mad. But as kind of uncharitable as that comment might be, it's absolutely true. You know, and I was talking to my wife the other day. Both my daughters are around your age. They're around 30. One's over 30, the other's right on there. And I commented, and I go, "There's no way I'll ever say this out loud," and as I say it out loud right now, but I'm so glad my daughters did not put on all that weight in college and then got that beer and pizza weight in their 20s. They train, they both work out, I think, almost every day. They both are very careful about food choices. They certainly have fun. They celebrate life. And as a father of a 30-year-old who, and of course, and I live in this business, it was weird I was like, I wasn't proud. I was more like, "Oh, you guys, you don't even know that you dodged the bullet." Mm-hmm. They also graduated from college debt free, which probably is no big deal in Canada, but here in the States, it's crippling to their classmates. So this sounds weird, but if you can get to 30 without massive bad debt and without putting on a lot of, because all that weight you put on in your 20s, that is almost impossible to get off the rest of your life. I wouldn't say impossible, but it is so hard. So a couple of random points. I apologize for being so random today.
No, that totally makes sense. I think that's probably one of the biggest drivers that I use for myself, and that motivates me to continue training at such a high level and look for different ways to keep things exciting and trying to grow my strength. Isn't to be the strongest guy in the room necessarily anymore, but it's to have that, like you said, that surplus, that gap between, okay, even if I naturally do degrade over time, at least I'm never going to get to the point where I can't perform certain tasks that, again, I know I'm always going to want to perform, right? And that can be exercise related, life related, doesn't really matter. I really drive on the point that you need to maximize and optimize those prime years, or putting on muscle and developing your strength at a very high threshold is crucial.
I break it down. I use Nick Raines' numbers from FitRanks. So from about birth to about age 15, you should expose your children to every sport, every game, every movement. Bobby should take ballet classes and play baseball and do gymnastics and ride his bike and swim. No focus at all. You should teach him how to lift weights and all that. But from 16 to 35, those are those prime years where you want to get you want to be a lean, mean fighting machine. You want to stay relatively lean. You want to try not to break things up. Learn the Olympic lifts, compete if you have, do whatever you have to do. But because once you hit 36 to 55, holding on to lean body mass becomes. Pardon, just a second. What? Oh, okay. I'll fix it. Okay. Sorry, I have a deaf friend in town.
Oh, no problem.
And so we're working on a business model here for a couple days, and I'm going over complexes and different kinds of training. But I'm very proud that I work with the deaf, people with MS, a couple of other diseases, lots of cancer survivors. I tell you one thing, man, if you can coach a deaf person, a blind person, and a person with limb issues, you learn a lot of things, man.
I bet.
Yeah, explaining kettlebells to a deaf person or a blind person is fascinating. So there you go.
Can't be easy.
But it's wonderful. So it's all good. Yeah. I lost my train of thought, but 30. So from 36 to 55, Brandon, what you're going to discover is that your lean body mass goes to war with you. Your body wants to get fat and sit in chairs. And then once you hit, so that to me is when you'd want to be more of so in a simple way, as many sports as you can until up to 15. 16 to 35, ballistic sports. 36 to 55, that's when you want to be just a classic strength trainer and focus on nutrition. And then where I'm at, 56 plus, this is probably when you want to bodybuild the most, because this is the time to take care of joint mobility and traditional bodybuilding. And I talk to people about that sometimes in workshops. And I'll get, like, especially when I work with the military, guys will come up afterwards and they'll be like, yeah, yeah. And then they'll walk away. That was their whole response. Because they hit certain places in their life, and it's like, do you remember how stupid we used to be? Yeah. And they think they should still be doing that, where their experience is far more important than 10 more push-ups or whatever. Yeah. Mm-hmm. So that's that. Yeah.
So going off that, in terms of like in your prime and doing those ballistic type workouts, I'm a huge fan of incorporating. I know you are too, especially being a distance thrower and having like Sergey Litvinov with his speed work attached to big, good big compound moves. I'm working with pro MMA fighters now, and I do a lot of that.
Yeah.
We'll do heavy squats. I know you're more of a heavy front squat kind of guy into sprints and fast twitch type of movement pattern. But I think those things go hand in hand. So again, and I'll let you elaborate on that, but also I've talked to people about burning fat and gaining muscle together.
What's funny is about what you just said is funny, because we're doing this thing, we're doing these experiments now with complexes followed by long walks.
Okay.
So for me, because of my age, to keep my heart rate where it needs to be, I wear 5-pound ankle weights when I go for my walk, and I carry 3-pound hand weights. That gets my heart rate between 107 and 117, which is where I should be when I do these fat burning walks. So we do these complexes. Folks, complexes when you do a movement for like 8 reps, followed by another movement for 8 reps, followed by another, and the bar never leaves your hands. Our complexes are using 6 exercises back to back to back. More information, go to Google, type in Dan, John, and complexes. The first thing that'll come up is a T Nation article on complexes. And the second thing is my PDFs of my complexes. So what we're discovering is, so when I'm doing these complexes, let's say I'm doing complex C, which is snatch grip RDL, hang snatch, overhead squat, back squat, good morning, and then a row. And by the way, folks, so that's 24 squats in there. That's a lot of squats and a lot of hinges. I'll do that for 2 or 3 rounds. And then when I get ready for the last round, I put my ankle weights on, I put my hand weights on the curb, I do my last set, and then we just start walking and I grab the hand weights. And it is believed, and I think there's some truth to this, that since I'm doing this in a fasted state, so I'm make it as simple as I can, I am burning sugars while I'm doing my complexes. And then I literally can feel, Brandon, the sugar to fat burning change into my walk. I can feel it because I'll be like, and I'll just suddenly go, and I'll be out of that panic and I'll feel myself relax. And that's when I'm thinking I'm kicked over to fat burning. So so what I'm trying to get across here. So for fat burning, we mix complexes with long walks. For high level performance, we mix either a hinge, would be like a deadlift, a clean, a snatch, followed by a sprint or a sled run, or a squat, front squat, you said, overhead squats are great too, followed by a sprint or a sled run. And it's interesting because the same toolkit that I use for elite performance, which is the hinge or squat followed by the sprint or sled, is the same basic tool I use for fat loss, which is the complex followed by the long walk. It's interesting because the complex is more intense than the front squat, but the sled or sprint is more intense than the walk. So it's just kind of interesting how they're the complete same thing to me, but different. I find that one's for fat burning, one's for high level performance. This is one of these realizations. Don't forget, I've been doing this now, 65 to 2020? That's gotta be a few years, right? 55 years. And the fact that I'm learning something every single day just excites the heck out of me.
Yeah, absolutely. And so let's go off that. Cause I know I've read obviously a lot of articles by you, and you talked about generating passion, which for me, again, that really hits home for me, because when I dive into something, I want to be really good at it. I don't want to waste my time. I want to create a little bit more certainty, and I want to have fun with it. And I want to be excited about the process. So like getting an actual passion behind something rather than just going through the motions and having to motivate myself to show up every day. And you talked about, obviously weightlifting in particular, traveling some more and educating yourself. Dive into that a little bit in terms of how to generate a greater passion behind something that you do want to accomplish that you might have a hard time getting into currently.
Well, the first issue is the word passion. And I hate it when I'm at a party and someone says, X is my passion. The word passion comes from passios. It means to suffer. It means to suffer. Mm-hmm. Passion is not love. And that's why you're passionate about your children, because your children bring you a lot of suffering. And I mean this. The children it's funny because, it's great when you're holding a baby, but trust me, the other 23 hours and 58 minutes a day with that baby are a lot of work. So Viktor Frankl in Man's Search for Meaning, he has that great thing about suffering. And he says, if you can find your why, you can deal with any how, from Nietzsche. And he says the 3 easiest ways to discover about your passion: work, love, but the easiest one is suffering. So for me, it's interesting. I love my work, and so
Sorry, guys, just froze up again here. So just waiting on the computer to generate itself again. I love Zoom. I love technology. It happens.
sometimes I suffer. Brandon?
He's back.
Sorry.
That's okay.
Are we, what did we lose?
We lost probably the last, you were just kind of getting into the suffering aspect of things.
Okay, so what, and folks, this happens, don't worry. So one time I was at the Sky Club in Atlanta, and this guy turns around with a bowl of soup, and I look down and I say, "You're Gary Player," and he looks up and says, "You lift weights." So we started talking. He's a very famous golfer. He's won the Masters. He was a weight trained golfer, and I asked him about a story I'd heard of him one time, and he said he was having a terrible round and he was really frustrated. And as he walked off, a fan said, "I would do anything to have one of your bad days."
Mm.
And it really upset him. It really upset him. And he said, "No, you wouldn't. I get up before the sun comes up and I hit 500 balls until my hands bleed. And then I put gloves on and I keep hitting balls. I get sunburned, I freeze, I think about it more." Basically, it's true. I yelled at him a lot harder than that. I was throwing the discus one time and someone said, "I would do anything to throw the discus as far as you." And I can remember thinking, no, you wouldn't. No, you wouldn't. Because to be a discus thrower, to be an athlete, it means you spend hours a day by yourself with no fans, with no cheer, with no return, with no reward, trying to get yourself a little bit better. Hours of it, hours. When you wake up, when you're making a meal, you're making that meal to make yourself throw farther or do whatever you do better. Every minute of every day is focused on that. When people ask me, I write about a book a year. How do you do it? And I write until it's down. And they say, "How do you do that?" And I'm like, "Well, because writers write, and throwers throw, and jumpers jump, and bikers bike, swimmers swim. And if you're going to do something, you have to do it every day." I don't necessarily agree with the 10,000 hour rule or anything like that. I read that great book by Epstein, I think it's called Range, where it's true in three things: chess, golf, and classical music, because those are the only three things that have instant feedback. If you make a bad chess move, you lose your bishop, you lose your queen. If you hit a ball wrong in golf, instant feedback, you know. But in no other area of life, I know when someone plays the violin badly. I don't, because I can hear it's wrong. But I do think I do think on the passion side of things, you have to be willing, like raising a child, or being married, you know. There's good times and there's bad times. There's rich and there's poor, sickness and in health. If you want to be a great discus thrower, there's going to be good times and there's going to be horrible times. You're going to be throwing in a rainstorm, a snowstorm, and a perfect day. And then that perfect day gets really, really hot. Your hand gets sweaty and you have a hard time holding on to the discus. There's always something. And when people want to improve the way their body looks, it means you have to give up certain things, not just foods, but time. And you have to roll out of bed, and you have to, you know, I fast 14, 15 hours a day, and I'll tell somebody that, and they'll be like, oh, I could, wait, I didn't tell you to starve. I told you to not eat. And then there's this disconnect, especially at parties, this disconnect. Well, I'd do anything to lose weight. Well, why don't you fast 15 hours a day? Oh, I could never do that. Well, that's part of that thing. I would do anything. That would be under the house of anything.
Yeah.
It's my friend Dr. McComb says. Dr. McComb, he specializes in candida, systemic candida infections, and he said he's got no research on what I'm about to say, but he's just noticed it over the years that to help women get over it, he asked them for the 9 weeks to not drink orange juice or eat oranges. He's just noticed that flare-ups tend to happen with those two things. So you've just agreed, Brandon, to go on a supplement program, to take these prescriptions, to eliminate this and to do that. But the moment he says oranges and orange juice, he gets this every time. No way. I couldn't give up oranges. No way. What? When's the last time you had orange juice? Oh, it's been years. But I couldn't give it up. And that insight changed my entire career. I will do anything to look like the cover of the girl on Shape magazine. Okay, you'll have to give up carbohydrates. Well, okay, I can't do that. Okay, I want you to sleep 9 hours every night. There's no way I can do that. Okay, I want you to go for a walk every day. Every day? So you're willing to do anything except for sleep, fast, give up carbs. You'll do anything except the easy stuff. What do you want? Yeah. So it's funny you bring that, because right now I'm getting agitated, because when I talk about this, I get agitated because
Get passionate.
Yeah, my passion gets in the way of your, and it's not really a dream. So in college, we studied Wittgensteinian logic. And one of the things you learn is that you can use words to say anything you want. Brandon, you have a pickup truck in your nose. Okay. Well, that doesn't mean anything. Right. But I said it, but it doesn't mean anything. Most people, when they say to me, I'll do anything to lose weight, it's just like me saying, Brandon, you have a pickup truck in your nose. All I did is cobble some words together and throw it at you across my larynx, my voice box, and added some lung power to it. It meant nothing. And, passion is, putting your feet on the ground and moving forward, and keep going when it's tough. And I got to tell you, folks, no matter what goal you have, there's going to be days. There's that great poem about Noah. The days are long, Lord. The days are long. If you want to get your goals, there's going to be long days ahead of you. So that's enough on that.
Yeah, but it's like you said, it's part of the process, right? It's not about the next 3 months or 6. And I know I want to get into timeliness and having those deadlines available. I know you're a huge fan of that, but I think people get so obsessed with the immediate result and the immediate gratification, where at the end of the day, like, true gratitude and passion, for lack of a better word, comes through enjoying the process and seeing it out and just kind of seeing what you can create, and having those small little goals here and there to motivate you and drive you and excite you. but not get so obsessed about getting that thing tomorrow, because like you said perfectly, it takes sacrifice, and it takes time, and it takes patience, and it takes discipline. A lot of characteristics people don't necessarily have in their life, and they don't appreciate, and they don't value. And like, that's why I see how passionate you are, because you're an athlete. You've embodied those values, and I've embodied those values my entire life. I want to play university football. I want to compete at a high level in university wrestling. If you want to compete in the Highland Games, you want to be an All-American. That takes all those values to be encompassed on a day-to-day scale. So when we hear someone say, I can't give up carbs, or I can't fast for 15 hours, yeah, it pisses us off, because it doesn't make any sense to what you're actually trying to strive for.
So we were on a bus my senior year at Utah State. We're on a bus going to a track meet. I mean, our bus rides were 12 to 14 hours. You know, of course, playing university, you don't know this, right? Those massive bus rides, right? And I think we're coming home, and somebody said, and we started talking about on the team bus, that Playboy magazine had ranked Utah State University as a top 10 party school. So my best friend was Tarl Lidvigsman. He was our Norwegian distance runner. And I said, did you know we were a party school? And he looked at me like this. He goes, no. Well, if you're a Division I athlete, every single weekend of your life is gone. We would get on buses on Friday, and we would come home Sunday morning at 5 a.m., 6 a.m., seriously. And that was my weekend. 2 14-hour bus rides, a track meet, and that was, and so we didn't know, I didn't know I was at a party school. And my brother Phil at the time, funny, was at Chico State, which was the #1 party school in America. And I look back on that, like, even though all this stuff was going on around me, I was in this tunnel. Now, certainly I had a great college experience, but that didn't mean that that dominated my life. To get your goals, you're going to have to sacrifice things. You can't, the phrase I always use is chasing rabbits. If you chase 2 rabbits, you go home hungry. On my forums, that's a very common answer for me. Dan, I want to learn the Olympic. I'm 53 years old. I want to learn the Olympic lifts. I want to do a triathlon. I want to do Brazilian mixed martial arts and get a 6-pack. Oh, and do Highland Games. And be like, you're give me a break here. Dan, I'm a 73-year-old and I'd like to learn the Olympic lifts. What should I do? First off, start when you're 8. You know, so yeah, it gets. I'm not saying I'm frustrated. It's just more like it's very difficult to come from like yourself, you know, university football, Division I track and field, and then listen to people want to get your goals without understanding that, you know, I had thrown the discus a long time before I threw it really far. It takes a while.
Yeah, it takes time for sure. So going into timeliness, to kind of give people that opportunity to stay motivated and maybe have these like short disciplines and these kind of like sections, dive into how people can create these little small deadlines for themselves.
Well,
or how you use it, at least.
The system I use, I got away from all that goal setting stuff a long time ago, because no offense, gentle listener, I've achieved a lot of my life goals. I'm one of the few people I know who's done it. Okay, I retired at 52. I made all my athletic goals. I didn't win everything I wanted to win, but so what we do now, Brandon, is I use 2 systems. The first is called Shark Habits. Shark Habits, 1 bite and it's gone. So for example, you'll see them in a black polo shirt. It's because I bought 18 of the exact same polo shirts. And why 18, Brandon? Because that's all they had in my size in North America. And so I only wear this shirt. I went to a graduation party last night, a very small one, and I wore a yellow shirt, and literally the first thing out of people's mouths were, why aren't you in a black polo? And it's like, oh, okay. If you ask me to go to your wedding, the second I get that RSVP, I fill it out, I send it in, I call up. If you're registered, I order the gift. I will do that in about a 3-minute period because the bride needs to know if I'm coming or not. No matter what, you're getting a gift from me. That to me, that's what a shark habit is. We have a chore list for the house. On certain days of the week, we do certain things. We generally have a menu for the house. We eat certain things on certain days. Anything I can get to be just, if it's a yes, no, a binary question for me. If I say yes, I say yes. If I say no, I say no. How hard is it to get me to come on this podcast?
Very easy.
What did I say?
Said yes.
Where are we, right? So that's number one. Anything that's, now by the way, I didn't say this is unimportant. This podcast is very important. But for me, the yes, no part, the binary part, just say yes or just say no. Get it out of your face. But for things that are my goal, I make what Pat Flynn calls a pirate map. If you're going to go find the buried treasure, it's on St. John's Island, find the white coconut tree, take 6 paces to the west, dig down 6 feet, there it is. That's what people want. So I do these things called pirate maps. Let me give you, it's all, the bulk of the world knows my pirate map. One is my sleep ritual. Before I go to bed, I make coffee so I can wake up to the smell of coffee. I take my supplements before I go to bed. Basically, I just take fish oil and sugar-free orange flavored Metamucil. I'm on that Metamucil challenge. And then I write up my to-do list. I don't know where it is. Right, it's next to the coffee pot right now. And it says, talk to Brandon at 8 o'clock. That's my to-do list for today. At 9:30, I work out, but I got it. But that, you're the big one. Number 2, wake up and be grateful. The first thing I do in the morning is wake up and be grateful. Number 3, every day I do a 1-moment meditation. It's an app on my phone, and it's that app right there. Some days I go longer than 1 minute, but if I can't get 1 minute to just count my breaths, then I've got other problems that I should concern with. So sleep ritual, wake up and be grateful. Number 3, the 1-minute meditation. Number 4 is my training program. 2 days a week, complexes and rucks. 1 day a week is buns and guns. Wednesday's dedicated to pressing. Today, Thursday, is tonic day where we just do mobility work. And then on the weekends, I try to keep free for bike rides and walking the dog and going with my wife. Mm-hmm. And then the last one, number 5, is I strive to eat 8 different vegetables every day. And I'm very good about it. I usually have that at my brunch breakfast. My thought is this, Brandon, is if you have a goal you want, break it into a daily 5-part routine, okay? What are you gonna do every single day? 5 parts. And if you stay true to that, principle number 3 of my coaching concept is this. If you respect the process, the results take care of themselves. So if you say to me, Dan, I want to be a great discus thrower, I'll tell you what Coach Mom told me in 1977. Lift weights 3 days a week, throw the discus 4 days a week for the next 8 years. So when you're 38, Brandon, you could be a pretty good discus thrower. Well, if that's something you want. But if you understood what he was trying to tell me, he was telling me respect the process, the results will take care of themselves. Mm-hmm. Now, I can't say in 8 years you're going to be the Olympic gold medalist because other people want that goal also. And no offense, they might have just been born better. Okay? But you could be a pretty good discus thrower in 8 years. You want to write a book? I would write a pirate map for book writing. I would say, here's my pirate map for writing a book. Make coffee, wake up to the smell of coffee, answer a few emails first thing in the morning because that warms up your typing. Write anything you can for 3 hours, and then live your life. Come back later in the day, look over what you write, clean up stupid mistakes, make a note or 2 about where this is heading, and do it again. If you write an hour a day for a year, you'll have a book. If you, well, if you know where you're heading.
Well, it is kind of funny.
And even if you don't, it'd be an interesting book.
Yeah, probably more interesting, right? But it is funny, just the compound effect of things that people tend to overthink what they can accomplish in a couple weeks or couple months, where they underestimate what they can accomplish in a full year. And I was a good example. I did this year-long blog where I would write one blog on health and wellness every single day. And that could be a 10-minute blog, a 15-minute blog, whatever. But every single day for 365 days, you knew Brandon was going to produce a blog. And at the end of the year, I had accumulated over 90,000 words on health and wellness. So again, you look at that, that's maybe a book, maybe 2 books with that amount of work by just doing 15 to 20 minutes a day, every day for 365. And I think sometimes people just get lost in not, like I said, appreciating or respecting the process, and they think too much about the end result.
Absolutely. You broke up a little bit. You're back.
We're back, like always.
Yeah, I was able to hear your point about the 365 blog. Can I give you my 3 coaching points? Can I give you my 3 coaching points real fast?
Go right ahead. Yeah.
And then I'm gonna have to go. I'm gonna have people starting to show. In fact, you can already see I'm getting focused because people are sitting up there.
No worries.
So number 1, invest wisely in asymmetrical risks. What can go wrong? What's the worst that can happen? So when you look at an exercise, if you're going to teach a whole bunch of people this exercise, you got to ask yourself, what can go wrong? We don't do box jumps because a lot can go wrong with box jumps. We don't do this exercise because if you don't teach it, you don't stay focused, a lot can go wrong. So that's asymmetrical risk. I have these little 3-day, they're very inexpensive. They're backpacks that have enough food and water for 4 people for 3 days, plus some emergency things. They cost $20. So I give them all my daughters, my wife, every car we have has one of those in there. I keep one right here. The idea is this: where I live in Utah, there's some places that if you broke down here in the summer, it could be hours, days before someone could come by. There's some lonely stretches in the deserts of Utah. Well, that little backpack, how much is that worth if my grandkids are with my daughter and their car breaks down? I mean, how much are my grandkids worth to me? A lot more than $20. So that's asymmetrical risk. Number 2, embrace the obvious. Runners run, swimmers swim, lifters lift. Always trying to find the most obvious things to get to your goal, and then throw your arms around them and fall in love with them. That's why I like O'Gallagher's thing. Fast. Eat vegetables at every meal. Eat protein at every meal. Lift 3 days a week. That's obvious, right? I don't know why I didn't come up with that damn book. You know, you want to throw the discus far, you throw the discus, you snatch and clean. Well, what else is there? That's the obvious stuff. Do that first. And then number 3 is I hate to say, fall in love with the process. The results will take care of themselves. The shark habit will clear your mind, but the pirate map, the process, the good night's sleep, the vegetables, the going for the hike, the whatever you decide your pirate map should be. If you can follow that, and here's the other thing, if you don't mind, one thing. If you find you're not doing something on your pirate map, throw it out. Because why waste all that time feeling bad? If you can't do the 1-minute meditation every day, well, then don't do it. But I think you'll be happy you did. So, Brandon, that's a summary of my vision of coaching.
I love it. It's simple. It's to the point, and it makes a lot of sense. And I think it's something that people can and should apply without really being overwhelmed or exhausted with the principles that you're applying.
Well, you played football. Number 1, asymmetrical risks. You got to practice taking a safety. Now, maybe you only have to do it once in the preseason. Practice taking a safety, to win on, so they don't get the ball. And you might never take a safety as a head coach. But if you have to take a safety, that's an asymmetrical thing that could win the game for you. You want to practice. So asymmetrical risk as a football coach. What if you kick the ball off and it only goes 8 yards? The ball's still alive. So your team has to practice what to do if the ball only goes eight yards. You have to practice those weird. You have to practice what to do if the punt returner muffs the ball. Now you don't want him to muff the ball, but boy, if he does, you want people to jump on it. Okay, so asymmetrical risks, and then embrace the obvious: block, tackle, ball control. Those are right. Mm-hmm. Those are the 3 ways to win football games. And then listen, the third one says this: if we do what we're supposed to do, we're going to be an okay football team. We still might lose every game because we're not very good, because we can't control the results, but I can control the process. And so what I do as a coach, when I was dating my wife, we had a terrible football team. But at the end of the season, we won our last 5 games. When I finally understood that I can't win games, but we can win every small situation in a game. And when those small situations start winning, pretty soon the scoreboard ended up in our favor. We weren't that good, but we won the small battles.
Beautiful. I love, and that's life, right? Take care of the small stuff that you can control.
What is it? 95% of worries you can't do anything about.
Yeah, 100%. Well, Dan, I know you have to go. You're on a tight time frame. Again, I appreciate you being here for the podcast today. Obviously, you guys can visit Dan John at Dan John University. Can you give them the exact website, Dan, and kind of where people can find you?
Sure. There's 2. There's the library is at danjohn.net. Thousands of pages of stuff to read. Thousands, probably. Just say thousands. It's thousands, and all free. And then danjohnuniversity.com, where we got the workout generator. We got all my new articles. We've got 15 PDF people. And folks, I'm here to help. And ideally, Brandon will invite me back.
Absolutely. Like I said, we could have talked for hours and hours, but life has to go on. So, Dan, appreciate everything that you gave us today. Like I said, you're an awesome guy. And like I said, everyone, the stuff he provides, it's, again, the last week or so I've been consumed with it. It's been awesome stuff. And I love the education. It leads to a greater passion behind what I do. So thank you for that, Dan. And go ahead. So you can have the last words here, buddy.
Be sure you email me the link so I can share this. Now, email so I can share it, okay? Because, I'm an old guy. I can't figure out the other stuff, all right?
That's okay.
Take care, my friend.
That's good with me. All right, Dan.
Take care. Bye-bye.
See you, buddy.